This stuff is curious. It seems to me that film is becoming more and more popular. Look at Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey and Sinners. Everyone's talking about how they're shot on film. It makes sense. If you look at a timeline of film history, you'll notice that only here at the end does digital start to be used. So 100 years of conditioning and people expect high quality productions to be shot on film and have the film look. To understand the qualities of film best so we can recreate it, I think we need to look at film. So I'm going to shoot a roll of 35mm black and white film, so we can look at the qualities of the film that we want to recreate. I chose this shot to show you guys today because I have a digital video of the same person in the same spot. I'm gonna make the digital one black and white so we can have a better comparison of just the qualities of light and grain. If we zoom in 200%, you can really see the differences. For one, the digital is a lot lower quality, but I wanna focus on the section above the head. You'll notice that there's a bloom on the light behind his head, and that's one of the qualities that we're gonna be recreating. Now let's look at another picture I took. I wanna look at the grain in this picture. This is ISO 400 film, but it looks closer to the amount of noise I get at ISO 3200 on my digital camera. And our grain is going to be one of the most important ways to sell the film look. Now let's make our way into DaVinci Resolve to do a film emulation. I have a few duplicates of the same clip here so I can show you the difference between DaVinci Resolve's free, not the studio version, free film emulation tools and Dehancer's paid tools. It is important to note that Dehancer has given me a free version of their software, but with that being said, I'm not obligated to give them a good review, and I'll be showing you what parts of Dehancer has made their way into my workflow. I've already made a video on how to set up color space transform nodes and general color grading stuff, so if you're already lost, then go check out that video. So I'm starting off here in Rec 709, but I'm going to be working in DaVinci Wide Gamma. Your film emulation is actually going to go last, so the first thing you want to do is to balance out your white balance, and then do your exposure adjustments, so I'm going to do that right now. Alright, now let's get into Dehancer and see what it can do for the actual film emulation. I found that putting the Dehancer node at the very end of your node tree and putting the input as Rec 709 works the best. I just think it looks the best, and I've tried other formats and they just don't look as good. Since we've already adjusted the color, we don't have to do any of these compensation. The first thing I do is enable the print. And we're going to use the Kodak 23A3 print stock for this. This is also what we're going to use in the free version of DaVinci Resolve. I think this looks the best and I pretty much use it in all my footage. I don't usually do any adjustments to the print settings, so we're just going to leave this alone for now. Now we're going to jump over to the 3 effects in Dehancer that I actually use. Everything else I never touch. These effects are the film grain, the halation, and the bloom. Alright, we're going to start with the film grain. I like to use 65mm ISO 50 film grain, and then reduce the amount to 3. This gives a very subtle grain that I think looks the best. Now let's put some halation on. Though this shot doesn't really have any bright highlights, I still think it adds a slight golden hue that I really like to parts of the frame, especially around the glasses. Alright, and now to the bloom. I just set this to 35mm and adjust the amplify until it's very subtle like the halation. Alright, now we're going to make the same exact grade within the free version of DaVinci Resolve using only free tools. We're going to start by opening our compound node with our LUT transform in it. In the compound node, there's 2 nodes, one with a color space transform moving us into Cineon film log, and the other is going to have our LUT attached to it. We're going to use the Kodak 2383D55 for this. Now we're going to match the effects. Starting with the halation, I have a compound halation node that I've made myself because the halation effect is actually part of the DaVinci Resolve Studio. In my part 2 video on color grading, I'm going to show you how to actually make this compound node, so take a look at my channel for that video. And again, for the film grain, we cannot use the film grain that is in the color page of DaVinci Resolve because that is also part of the studio version. But we can work around this. If you go over to the Fusion page and you search for film grain, you can add the film grain there, and just make sure you add it very subtle or else it looks a little bit too much. And here's 2 ways to get the film look, one with DaVinci Resolve's free tools and the other with Dehancer's plugin. Now if you're saying, that doesn't look like film, I want my film to look more like this, or this, well you'd be surprised to know that these are both shot on digital and graded to look like really old gritty film. And interestingly enough, this was shot on film, and this. To get the gritty look you want to do some adjustments before you film. Importantly, lighting, but the easiest thing to change beforehand is the lens. The lens you use is very important. If you use a vintage lens like this one, you get a very soft and muddy look. So let's grade some shots shot on this vintage lens so we can see how that advances the film look. I'm going to do the same exact process I did for the last shots here. So we do balance, exposure, and saturation. I'm going to use Dehancer specifically for this because I want to also do a film stock emulation, not just the film print. But I'm going to keep all the other settings like bloom, halation, and film grain the same. Now I'm going to use the Kodak Vision 3 film stock for this, but as soon as you turn it on, you'll notice it's a little bit desaturated and less contrasty. So we can use the developer to add that contrast back in and that saturation, and you get a beautiful image. So yeah, that's kind of how I do my film looks. If you're interested in more color grading tutorials or other videos I make, then subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.